Playbook by Laserforce Loveland. This podcast is a platform for laser tag players to geek out about strategy, stories, and ongoings in the Laserforce scene, and for you to join us as another player at the table. My codename is Mischief. I'm a player from Loveland, Colorado, who loves to talk about tag, and tonight I'm joined by Bromatized and SgtTucker from Loveland, Colorado. This is take 2, by the way. Welcome on, guys.
Thanks for having me, Luke. Appreciate it.
The audio quality is a little different tonight. I'm recording on my phone with a new app, and we actually got a few seconds into the previous version and had to start over. So we are in the Nest, aka SgtTucker's apartment, and we're chilling. Tonight is all about Bromatized. We're doing what I believe to be our final interview of Loveland Phoenix members regarding Laserforce Internationals 2024. And we wanted to get your story. Tonight's the Bromley story. Can you repeat how you got into laser tag?
Yeah. So probably about 8-9 years ago, I came with a group, some friends that worked at Chick-fil-A, and they were having an event at Loveland Laser Tag. And so I joined them, and I think I met Ghost, aka Jarrett at the time, and he was pretty young, his little tiny self back then, high voice and everything. And I was like, man, after playing multiple times, like coming back maybe every month or so or something for a little while, I was like, I kept seeing him. I was like, do you play here a lot, or are you in a league or something? And at the time, the group had kind of dissipated. The numbers had dwindled. But I kept coming, and Troy, a.k.a. Loki, came back, and then Josiah, Fear Turkey at the time, came back, and then I met you and a bunch of other people and stuff. And kind of from there, the rest has been history as far as just enjoying the strategy of the game, enjoying the athleticism. I was really big into video games, and it felt like playing video games in real life as far as actually jumping in there, being energetic, and making quick decisions and stuff, which I really enjoy.
Absolutely. You've been around for a very long time, since essentially the very beginning. I don't think you were there for Nats 2015, but you may have been there as early as 16 or 17. And I remember that you were very open to learning all kinds of things. And when West Coast 2018 came around, I think that was the first time you ever were going to compete in a tournament. You remember that?
Yeah. And I think I was like so eager, and I was like, felt like I was working my butt off, because I was like, maybe I could scrape by as an A-team medic, or I was like, well, at least B-team. And then I think it was you broke the news of being like, hey, we'd like you to be C-team captain. And I was like, well, that's a nice option. Do I have anything else? And it was like, no, that's your option. Or you could be on the C-team, but I think you'd be the best captain option for him. And I know it was just crushing at that point, because I felt like I'd worked so hard and done so many things to get there. But I didn't realize it at the time, but it definitely was a tool that really helped grow me into a better player. Although somebody didn't make it on the B team, so I ended up actually playing that tournament on the B team. But at first I was practicing and doing everything with the C team, and it was just getting pounded and beaten so badly over and over and over again. But it definitely instilled some, I feel like, core strategies and stuff too.
Do you remember what your code name was back then? Because I just found it.
Siberian Death 95.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah, I had to take the 95 off because I think Russ had no numbers at that point. And so it was just Siberian Death.
Yeah, and then I think my name went from actually Caleb Bitar's recommendation. I think he was the one to call me. It went to Damama Brahma for a very long time.
Yeah, it was.
And I think there was a time that I was Brahms the Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
having such a great last name, I get a lot of cool nicknames. But Troy was actually one of the ones to come up with Bromatized, like that you're being traumatized, and it's very fitting, and it's stuck for the last probably like 4 or 5 years of playing, I think. Maybe not that long, but
2018 was the first recorded game is Bromatized. So
Really?
Okay, so it's
been a long time.
It has been a long time that I've kept that name.
Congrats. Do you remember the conversation, Sergeant Tucker, about when we were building those teams and putting Bromley on the C team?
Yeah, it came down to more like we needed someone who was willing to be a leader for that team, because we had more than enough, like, the skill level was around the same in B and C in our eyes at that point. And so we were like, let's just have someone we know who can lead. Like, and so I think we met at Fear Turkey's house, and me, you, and Fear Turkey sat down. We had a list of every single player, and we were like, okay, who's going to be on which teams? And yeah, that was how we had to hash it out.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of your downfall, Bromley, was that we knew that you were a eager, growing, open-minded player. And when we built the B team, there was essentially there's one spot left and 2 players. There was you, and there's another player who will remain nameless, who had a bit of an attitude problem and would not have been willing to take the C team job. Therefore, they made B team and you made C team. And I think if I were in this position nowadays, I would have rewarded your attitude a little more. But at the time, we were just trying to get 3 full teams, which recommendation, don't force a C team. I think it's just a great way to make people not want to play Space Marines anymore.
I think that was also one of those moments where, looking back on it for your story's sake as well, we needed to realize that part of what our planning was who doesn't get along with who.
Yeah.
And after the tournament, we should have been like, okay, we need to solve this now and make it so that way we don't have to be like, well, because these people don't get along, we should try and have this person be here. Because we probably would have just then been like, Bromley's on B team.
Right.
But yeah, thinking back to that time, I know it was kind of actually crushing, and it probably was actually a conversation that I had with Josiah that actually kept me going and trying, because at that point I felt like I'd given it so much and I kept wanting to learn. I know I was asking like you and Josiah and maybe Joe and others, Eric at the time, the feeder, asking questions and being like, okay, maybe I don't understand this aspect of the rules. Like, okay, or I remember learning heavy a lot from you and being like, okay, what, and asking all those questions. And so it felt like, man, after all this, it's only C team. And Josiah was able to like really tell me the reasoning why that was happening and stuff. And yeah, it definitely helped me to decide to keep going. And we're 9 years later.
Yeah, 100%. We had all been through tournaments where we got pounded, and we understood that if Bromley is willing to do this, he's going to explode in terms of talent. And we're thankful that you stuck through on it, you know? It was one of the reasons that you were able to be so useful on the B team. I think potentially if you got onto the B team immediately, you wouldn't have done as well as you would have if not going through C team first.
I can totally agree, looking back. I do feel sorry actually for some of the people like Pollux that kind of got left with C team, and especially like Vanessa was initially going to be on the C team with us as well. And so Pollux kind of got the blunt of that and had to really try to band them together. He still might not have forgiven me for that. But no, it was really good. And yeah, I think I learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah, definitely. I remember you got to actually play quite a few heavy games for the B team. Like you were one of the top options for them.
Yeah. I guess thinking too, fast forwarding, I guess the next, I had played in small tournaments or seasons and stuff that we did at the Loveland site. But I think my next big tournament was Syracuse.
2021.
Yep.
Talk about that. Yeah. That was your first time traveling, right?
Yes. And I know all of you were like, okay, the first away tournament is going to be totally different and it's going to be eye-opening. And I was like, yeah. And it was like, I could not get some of the concepts, or it wasn't clicking for a long time. But then I finally started to make some traction and stuff. And I think I was telling you about this a couple weeks ago when I got back, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to be great at Loveland now that I've been to a away tournament. And I actually was having hard traction time coming back, and it took a little bit to then apply what I had kind of learned. And then it was kind of like I was unstoppable for a couple weeks and like progressing. And I think there is that kind of interesting shift when you can go to an away tournament and you can put into practice what you're just used to as the routine. I'm going to do this, you're going to do the meta or whatever, and just follow these steps. But then when you can start thinking and applying it into different cases, it goes a lot further.
What was your favorite part of the Syracuse arena? What did you like the most about it, kind of stuff?
Well, things that I didn't like is that it's so stinking long that you have to have 5 nukes to be able to, as the resupplies, get the bases in back. No, it was very big. For a while I was getting, because my style of play is very much of a continued jackhammer, I'm going to keep on until I break you down. It was hard to get into the resupplies that were held up very strongly in both exit doors at the time. And yeah, it was kind of, it was difficult for me to get traction because I kept trying to get in and heavy would get me. Then they'd resupply resupply the heavy, reset his shield, and then I would be barely coming up, and then the heavy, I'd maybe get one in, the heavy would be back up, shoot me down, they'd resupply him. I basically was just draining lives. And that happened for a little while, and then I kind of finally started slowing my pace, having to wait the heavy out, watch till they got resupplied, then go in and hopefully try to get those medic lives. Because that was definitely what you and Josiah had definitely told me to go after, versus that Phantom was trying to rack up the points. And but I was supposed to be taking those medic lives. And I think there's aspects of that I still install today that I keep going very heavily towards medic lives. Let's kill them out. Let's get it done, instead of just point farming. But back to your question, Joe, of things that I did like about the arena. It was interesting to have a 1-floor arena. I don't know if I just love it, but I think there's aspects of it that are different to where it causes a different play style. A lot of times their players coming to us have a hard time looking up, and so it's easy for us to shoot them and stuff because we're looking around. But it maybe does allow you to kind of focus in on not having to watch so many angles that you still need to watch, have your peripheral and watch behind you, but you're able to kind of see what's in front of you, I guess, and not have to worry about so many angles like at ours.
Yeah, definitely. So a little peek behind the curtain with that tournament, obviously COVID had happened. There was uncertainty around who was going to continue playing and everything. But the whole reason that we even tried to build a team was, I called up Josiah and was like, all right, we need to start trying to rebuild our site after we're losing like all of our 18 members. And we knew that at a certain point we would get to host Nats in the future. And like in general, we were looking at you, Simply Okay, and obviously we wanted to invest in Dr. Feelgood and Phantom as well. Just those were the ones that came out. We had other players that couldn't come to this tournament. But I was very interested in who you would become and how you would grow as a result of this tournament. Now, in the West Coast, you had played primarily Resupply and Heavy. And I think in my mind, I was almost pigeonholing you a little bit in that role, if I'm honest. I was like, okay, Bromley seems like he's really good territorially. But there was something in you that was starting to come out, this aggressive, medic killing, jackhammer, as you describe it, play style. Was that always how you were, or was there something that was changing in you over time?
I guess as a person and somewhat as a player, I'm very much I try to be a chameleon to where I fit in whatever scenario I'm put in. Sometimes that doesn't work out. Like I take aspects of Scout and try to put that into Commander, or I try to play a Commander like a Heavy, or, those kind of things, to where if I don't get into the zone in each role, I do feel like I like Scout, but maybe kind of like some of the newer players, I used to think, I don't feel like I had that thought, but maybe I did have this mindset of like, oh, I want to be a 3-hit because it takes more, hits to hit me and stuff. But I feel like I've always enjoyed Scout. Like it's a very diverse role, and it's amazing how game changing I feel like it can be if done properly. That it can really support or bring down your team depending on those Scout players. If they are a reset for your commander, for the enemy commander to just reset off of and be able to down your commander, then that's not helping out the team. Versus if they are actually able to give that support. But I think I've always been kind of sneaky and kind of behind the scenes and like to trick and everything. So Scout definitely comes at that, because as soon as like a commander is there, the attention is drawn to it. So I feel like the Scout is sometimes that better role, because I'm going behind the shadows, try to put 3 into somebody and then hide. And they're like, where is Bromley? I remember doing that so many times to Dr. Feelgood, and he was not happy. And he's like, where is he? But so many times from Rat Hole.
I would agree with that. You are I like to think of you as almost like a punisher, that you set up people so that if you know what they want to do, and if they do that thing, you're going to stab them in the back. You're going to break their knees, and you're very aggressive about it. It can have a psychological effect inside the game. Like, Bromley is shutting me down and I can't freaking stand it. Someone stop this guy.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe it goes all really just back to the basics: shoot, don't get shot. But yeah, there is an aspect of, if I can actually frustrate somebody in game and just continue to badger or hammer them, bulldoze them and just like take so many lives off, or they can't do what they're wanting to, then I feel like I'm helping my team out, because I'm either distracting or I'm trying to take lives off one of the resupplies.
So in Syracuse, how did that change your view of the Scout position?
I think maybe before I had been like thinking a Scout was just a support, or basically could just do whatever they want. But seeing an importance for a Scout that has the ability to really go after those medic lives. specifically, that's very much what I had done there versus the point farming. I know players like Akodama and stuff were really good about just keeping into those corners, waiting for me to pass by, shooting me, and then changing positions and stuff, to where the more I got distracted and trying to fight them, they were outdoing me. So it was better use for my time to just like, well, I'm going to be relentless at hunting the medic.
Absolutely. Do you have more questions? Oh, cool. Yeah, so that kind of seemed to shift, at least the way that like we saw you a bit. We had a tournament with you in the heavy position. We had a tournament with you in the scout position. And something I noticed was that I think you carried that medic style back with you, the medic hunting style back with you to Loveland. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Maybe that wasn't even the best way to really utilize you in Syracuse, because you win there more by hit diff instead of killing out the enemy team. Often both teams live anyway, no matter how well you do. Mm-hmm. But that's the style we were playing. And I think it was playing to your strengths a bit, because you had a ridiculous amount of medic hits from the scout position that tournament. But then, coming into West Coast, I think that was the next one. You played scout alongside Loki for Loki's Revengers. Remember that tournament? Mm-hmm. You talk about your experience there.
I don't remember tons of that tournament, to be honest. Maybe it's been blocking it out. It was so bad. There was so many tournaments like the Syracuse. I actually think my time on the B team on the West Coast, 2018. And then that tournament, that we kept coming fourth. And fourth was our nemesis. And so I remember things about that tournament, because we were trying to kind of maybe water down our teams to make it more easier for other newer players to come in and stuff, that we had our A-team lineup basically spread over at least 2, if not 3 teams. And yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, maybe I've blocked out some of that, or just didn't feel like I was really doing well. I was trying to do my best. But I mean, I feel like every little aspect, whether it's maybe small or big, makes you into the player that you are today, kind of thing. So maybe I don't remember tons of it, but maybe there's an aspect of just not giving up and just continuing, even in the face of awful adversity, and just like getting slam dunk again and again. But another aspect, I guess, going back to the Syracuse, was the random draw. I feel like I actually did learn a bunch of things from that.
Oh, really?
As well, like playing with Beans. I'd play sometimes Resupply with him, and I don't think I'd ever thought about it before. And I'm not always great at it, because it's such a hard thing to do, but I definitely like to try to give lives to the heavy as they get downed. So they've already gotten shot, but I'm simultaneously shooting them as they get shot. And it's a very hard thing to do, but that was something I felt like that we were doing constantly with Beans and me in multiple resupplies, because I think we got it like 3 or 4 times together and stuff. And it was kind of cool to actually come out still being a fairly new player that a lot of away site tournament or players didn't really know me, and then to actually doing the random draw of coming out as a commander or a heavy weapons or somebody that is like, oh, I remember Applesauce being like my commander, and I was their heavy, and they're like, oh no. And it was like, I think we won and stomped the other team or something. And maybe that was just a for fun game, but because she wasn't even on our team in the random draw. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of cool to actually feel like I was becoming more well known. So
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you were sagging the team down at all. We could find the scores, but I think you had like a really high commander score on one of those. But yeah, you are a random draw world champion. FYI, everybody. 2021.
Yeah, it definitely was having long conversations with you and others, Josiah and stuff, it definitely was, that was a goal. It was wanting that achievement, and it maybe wasn't even that, but just coming first place, like it felt like, man, we're just getting slam dunk again and again and again. And I think in my interview for that, I was like, I feel like this is our time to shine. And yeah, we did have home side advantage, but yeah, it was very, it was a goal attained after quite some time of going for it. And so I think there's sometimes a lot of new players that'll start coming in and they feel like they're doing really well and then get discouraged when they don't get that. Like they thought they would do better. They thought they'd come second. They thought they maybe come first. And it's like, don't give up, like keep fighting. The players that go far are the ones that just continue. Mm-hmm. You know, I get the medic hits because I continue to pester.
It's true. It's a strength of yours. Yeah, that's a good message out there. You mentioned that in your interview. Yeah, you wanted a trophy, and that accomplishment seems like it has a high meaning for you. And maybe something about recognition too. People knowing who you are.
Yeah, I think there has been a long time that it felt like that I either wasn't a good enough player, and maybe even just an aspect all the way back on the C team, that it was like, I'm not good enough to make B team or A team. And so wanting to achieve that and trying to do whatever it took to get there, and just feeling like I was doing or giving my all, and yet we keep coming forth as a team. And I know it was discouraging for everybody. But yeah, it definitely was something that it was like that I wanted to attain. Now that it is, I'm super happy. It's one of my favorite trophies, besides maybe also a painted mug from our first season from you.
Do you still have that?
I still do. It's right by my other trophies.
Oh,
right by my Brom hog.
You got yours too, Joe?
It's hiding somewhere. I don't know. It's probably in the storage unit.
You know what's funny is I remember that people didn't like them at the time, to a point where we went and paid for, professional trophies, and now they're like the most coveted ones of all the seasons.
Yeah.
As a note, by the way, you were saying that score. It was a 10.9 against Cody. What's your commander game?
Whoa.
Yeah, you had a 10.9 versus Cody's 10.5, and you guys won by 7,000 points.
Let's go.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's an aspect, and even in board games and stuff, I do like to win. Like I try to be a good loser. I'm not always the best at that. But yeah, I definitely don't go into a game being like, oh yeah, I'm not going to try, or I'm going to lose, and there'll be maybe occasionally that it'll be like weird, just the randomizer had a brain fart and chose poorly and stuff, and so it's like, well, maybe I'll take it a little easy. But yeah, that aspect that I do enjoy to win, so that definitely did push me, I feel like, to want to know that maybe even that I could attain it. Like, was it in the cards? Could I actually win a first place trophy with players that I'd played with for the past 8-9 years? Like, yeah, it definitely was a big goal. And I'm happy to have been a part of it to finally attain that.
It's been an honor to have you along. And I want to talk about Nats, but before we get there, there's one more little chapter. It's the duos tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Loki Bromatized you you and Loki were a duo.
Yes.
What about that tournament? Did anything come of that?
I've always enjoyed playing with Troy, and having been, I guess, one of the second people that I've known the longest at laser tag, like we just have a good bond, a friendship, and also, yeah, we usually complement each other. A lot of times we have similarities, but sometimes different strengths. And he's kind of maybe more behind the scenes than I am even, and I'm kind of more just pestering. And he maybe can pick up the points that if I take the hits, and then he can rack up more points and stuff, or vice versa. So definitely playing, I remember a lot of our scout games going well, but we also were paired against some pretty good competition. I do remember one of the games that I really fought hardly against, and mercilessly, if I can say that, killed out James Strickva out of a game. And I know Joe and SgtTucker and Strickva were really big competitors, and we were paired against them quite often in a lot of roles. And so that I knew was a pivotal push when I found out he was low, and just continued to bring him down.
It's ironic you bring that game up, because you have one scorecard in the top 10 of that tournament, and it's that exact game. You got 33.34 MVPs.
Was it 9,900?
You got, I think so, 9,822.
And I think prior to that game, I really don't remember who, but somebody was like talking a little bit of smack, and I was like, this is my arena. I'm going to show you who's boss. and like came out like, and did we even win that game?
Yeah,
I thought so. But
And then you directed James.
yeah.
Yeah, that was, I can't tell because I'm on my phone, but you killed Strickva fast.
Yeah. When I found out he was low too, I did not relent. I mean, I didn't follow him or chase him, but I definitely did not let him get back to the resupplies, and I just kept shooting him. I'd reset the base, I'd reset whoever, and I was like, you are mine. I'm killing you out of this game.
You've been bromatized.
Yeah, 9 meta kits, 2.65 hit diff.
How many meta kits?
9. You shot Russ a lot. You also apparently shot your own medic once.
Hey, it made up for taking them. They walked in front of one of my shots.
Apologize to Nolan.
Sorry, Nolan.
Okay, so Nats came around. We started building the teams. There was a lot of building teams and tearing down teams. You know, what were your thoughts as we were getting into all that?
Maybe it was cocky of me, but I felt fairly confident just with that I would be on the team. Not in an arrogance, I guess, but maybe a little bit of cockiness. But yeah, I just I didn't know how it would pan out with who we'd all have and stuff. And yeah, I feel like it was a great team. I was really happy that I was maybe a big proponent, and you as well, of convincing Troy to come in and be our 7th player. And he deserved that honor as well. And yeah, I was really glad to have him be a part of our troop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's been your buddy for the last 2 tournaments. You played a lot of scout together, and obviously you synergize well off each other. You know, you might be like the thunder, he's the lightning kind of thing. you're the tank, he's the sniper. But you know, coming into all that, you were on just about every list we had. We were planning to have you as a scout, and the only reason you wouldn't play scout is if we essentially had some other combination that was really hard to get a hold of. Where we had a lot of people on, like, I think John was kind of the big one that was a question mark on our team. Yeah. John Calkins, Simply Okay. And originally he was going to be the ammo alongside SgtTucker, but he had a baby. So you ended up getting kind of floated from the scout role to the resupply role. And again, it was kind of like your willingness to do whatever the team needed shot you in the mouth, or shot you in the foot. Because you were willing to do it and you were good at resupply. So we tried you and SgtTucker for a while. Talk about that a little bit.
It was good. I enjoyed, and I would have been fine being on the resupply with Joe. And it was interesting. I enjoy scout, and it's one of my favorite roles. So maybe there was like, oh man, I'm hoping that I do get some scout games. And I feel like that was probably like my nagging. Can I play some scout and stuff? But it was interesting too after Nyla came along, Simply Okay's daughter, and the birth went well and everything, and like he actually was playing a lot more than we suspected and thought, to where it was like, I think I played 1, maybe 2 games of resupply, maybe a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure it was jumped right back into scout. So I guess in some regards I didn't shoot myself in the foot. But it was interesting having practiced so long with Joe and everything, and then it was like, well, nope, I'm scout, and be like, okay. But I think they did great together, and so.
Yeah, well, they definitely did, and you did a fantastic job on scout. The style, your style of medic killing is very strong in our arena because it's an elim arena. It's a small, kill the other team out kind of place. I remember asking you though, you and Jarrett and Troy didn't need help with this, but work on your hit diff. That was one of my big coaching points for you guys.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Remember, it was a little different because I felt like I played a little bit more reserved, of kind of watching more instead of like, I can sit still, but I feel like if I'm sitting still for too long, it's damaging or hindering the team. So maybe I'll use my moments of going a little slow to like go downstairs, go back up the other side, get my bases along the way. And I'm kind of just like trotting. And then once I get to the ramp, kind of take it a little slow and get up and then hit it hard again. So it maybe was a little different aspect of trying to be like, okay, that really shoot, don't get shot. Like I can't get to like to hit or get better hit diff. It probably lasted for a while, and then I felt like I probably went back to my old ways of just like, no, I'm a rhino, I'm going to charge in and land blast them. I still have that tendency, but I know there's some times where I catch myself and I'll start going in slower, and I'll start like rounding the corner and shooting people slower instead of charging in and looking at 5 guns and trying to shoot everybody instead of taking them one on at a time. So maybe it did help out some, but it still is old habits die hard.
Yeah, it's not that you can't play other play styles, but in my opinion, your heart is in the rhino play style. You want to be aggressive and beat down the enemy team.
Yeah. And I think it either some players can really handle it, and if they're thinking properly and they can easily block it or counter it, yes. But some players, it overwhelms them too much and they don't know how to handle it, and it causes that chaos. It causes them to then, especially let's say if I'm playing the rhino style as a heavy weapons and just unrelentingly attacking, and then they finally have to yield third or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, like you were definitely willing to play the resupply role if the team needed you to do it, and I know that. But you did keep coming up with ideas for the team that involved putting you back on scout.
I was more than willing to finagle the group for my advantage. I wanted some scout.
But I would argue it was to our advantage, because putting you in a place that isn't your, like, I'm not going to say it's not a strength, but it's not a passion. And I think passion does matter.
Yeah. Especially in a tournament, I would say scout I enjoy the most, but I am willing to do all the roles. Right. And I do think that I do a lot of the roles well. It might not be as good as some of the players. So like each specific player maybe was better at a different role. But yeah, I feel like scout is definitely one of my strengths. And so, yeah, instead of just trying to, if I needed to balance it out, then yeah. But if it worked out for everybody else, might as well put me into that strength, like you said.
Right. Well, it's a great thing to have on our team, and we built it into the strategy. You know, you got to play that bottom floor scout, and we're going to talk about this. Like, you were going to be the bottom floor scout. You practiced that pretty much the whole time. It put you in a position to utilize your punishing nature, your creativity, and have opportunities to attack the resupply.
Yeah.
And you were extremely successful at it, especially even against, I think the one that you were especially keen against was Inner Peace. That Cali team, like, you were able to get in on Applesauce quite a bit.
Yes. It probably didn't help that before Applesauce had said, well, if you can hit me one time, then I'll give you $1. And I was like, well, what if I hit you 10 times? She's like, well, I'll give you $10. And I was like, well, yeah, kind of, it was definitely a challenge to where I'm going to shoot you so many times. You're going to, and it was like, it probably felt like a ping pong ball that I'd run around, shoot them like at bottom of red. And then I'd run around the whole other side coming from red start, shoot them again, go back and forth and back and forth. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about this, Joe, right now? Just like the whole training process?
No, honestly, I had a different question for later about after this.
Oh, sure. Like, let's get into nets, you know. Or do you have any thoughts right now, bro?
No, yeah, let's get into nets.
Yeah, so tell us about like what that whole week was like for you.
It definitely was like nerve-wracking, exciting. I didn't want to be too cocky because I felt like before we were like, oh, we got this, like, we're going to win willy-nilly, and then we come forth. So I definitely was like, okay, we need to be cautious, but also confident. And so, yeah, that was, I feel like, the feelings of leading up to it. I felt like different strategies that we had worked on together. Some of the time I think we needed even more work and stuff. Like the big thing was getting the 3 hits full downstairs, and then it was like we want to get them full and we want to do it quickly, but we also still need that protection to where we're not just the medic and the ammo is not as important, but the medic is open to get hit during that process. So it needs to be just delayed like a little bit, or shoot down the opposition, then get a one and stuff. But different things like that, I felt like, yeah, that we continued to work on and did well as a team. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What part of training do you think was the hardest for you? What do you think was the most frustrating from all of the stuff that we did?
Working with Joe. No. No. I think it was good. There was sometimes I think we we think a little bit differently and stuff. And so sometimes we'd clunk heads. Definitely, I would try to always like...
As resupply
when we were practicing so much of this. There was a lot of times that I'd try to like, okay, I need to humble myself because even though I'm experienced, Joe has more experience. So yeah, sure, maybe I disagree a little bit with this, but let's do it. There was probably moments that I felt like, it's like, Joe, man, I've been playing alongside you with like 8 years. Like, I can play laser tag, Joe. Like, trust me. And but there were some things like that I think actually John does better. Like, he is quicker on the ball, and so I think that did work better for us to where you guys didn't really have to practice as long, and you just gelled. And I mean, me and John can gel well too, so it probably is a very credit to Simply Okay, just being able to really do good as a resupply and just synergize with whoever he's playing with. But yeah, so there was challenges in that. But I think still it was a good, and it wasn't like I hated playing resupply with you. Like, it was good. It was just sometimes like, hey, you can trust me, Joe. That I'm thinking in the back of my head.
I think it was a lot of, from my perspective at least, it was a lot of, like Luke said, it was hard to keep you from being the bull just rushing in, right? It was a lot of trying to be like, come here, we got to do this now. And sometimes you'd be like, but I'm shooting people in the midfield, and I'm like, I know, but we got to double now. And like, it was always, you're very, very talented in the game, so it was never anything against you, but it was a lot of like, okay, come here.
Well, I guess I know there was times of that for sure. I felt like a lot of times I would try to listen very much to where I know very much so that if somebody needs to get resupplied, they need to be the priority. The ammo can't just be like shooting. I remember Dr. Philgood having a tendency of that, of very much going far away and fighting and scoring a lot of points, but your team is hurting for the resupply. So I do know that fact. I think it was just sometimes where it was like we're in Funbox or Fortress, and I'd go down to Switchback, do some little damage, and it was like I barely got there, and I would be ready to come back, but it was like, no, Brahma, you can't go there. That's too far. But
to be fair, I think some of that was also Josiah, where he was like, this is the line, you're not allowed to go this distance away from each other. Mm-hmm. And both of us, when we were doing, because at the time we practiced where you were medic and I was ammo, and I was medic and you were ammo, it was both of us were having a hard time with that, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like you can do a lot as an ammo, especially on like red ramp. Mm-hmm. Green ramp too, if you're pushing in the closet some. But it's like, it's definitely a balance, and it felt like I had a very, very short leash when in those practices and stuff. But
well, in this, I would just throw in a little bit as far as how I conceptualize defense versus offense roles in general. I think the offensive players get to have more creativity because they're given a task, and the way they go about doing it is very in the moment, looking at your situation, choosing what angle to attack and when. Or if you're going to play more midfield. Defense is a lot more synergistic in nature. I think like there must be, when I'm standing here, you need to stand here, or here's our priorities at these situations. Like you can plan it out more ahead of time. And even like in Nats, Joe, when it was like me heavy, Simply Okay ammo, and you medic, we tried as much as possible to operate as one hive mind. Mm-hmm. And you were the brain, Joe. Mm-hmm. Like, even though I was the 3-hit, and you would give me my room to attack, you were enabling me to attack and to defend and come back. If you called me, I would come to you. I would not tell you what to do. You told me what to do ultimately.
You got one warning and then you got resupplied. You didn't have a choice anymore. It happened in a couple of games where you can see me yell, Luke, you're still shooting people, and I just put my gun out and I resupply you. That's right. I think it only happened twice, but.
And it was really cool when it happened. And even though John, we all know, is an extremely talented laser tag player, like he was totally running errands for you and doing what you were telling him. And it's not about who's the best laser tag player. We are stronger on defense when we operate as one, essentially. But you have to be willing to give up your individuality to do it.
Yeah.
And you both had some different ideas of what that defense should look like.
Yeah.
And I think I made some of the bonking heads, as you said, would happen at times. And that's okay, because you both have different strengths, and we played to our strengths by giving you, John, Joe, and putting you on scouts. You can go do what you're best at, Bromley.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I definitely think what we had taken away before John finally came back was you and I kind of sat down and we went, all right, whoever's the medic's in charge.
Yeah, I think we did. Because there was like too much. Yeah.
It was becoming too much where it was like, well, Joe's in charge. Well, what if Joe's on ammo? Well, Joe can't be in charge then. Okay, well, Bromley needs to be in charge. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. We need to be doing this way. And it was, I think that smoothed it out a lot. And then,
I do remember that. Yeah. I felt like it was bonking heads for a long time. And then I felt like when we did maybe some of that, then it was like, okay, whether whoever is the ammo maybe starts to go out and do some good, but if they need to come back, that they're able to and to listen to the medic, whoever it was.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's actually why in Syracuse we did play one game of resupplies together against Syracuse.
Yeah.
And you played medic, and I was just like, okay, I have to be listening to Bromley. And there was one I've talked about with you where you were like, I need guns, and I stepped out and I was like, okay. And then Evil came over to me as the commander. I went, all right, it's my turn. I need guns, and you two just ran away. And I was like, I guess I'm not the medic anymore.
I probably was like, I'm running away. I'm getting my bases. I don't know.
You made a trail back into Fortress is what you had done. I was just sitting there in chamber just like, well, this is not ideal.
Sacrifice Joe for the greater good.
Joe for Bromley's hit diff.
There are two matches I want to talk about, Bromley, and they're the two final matches we played. So in finals, first of all, on that finals day, like what was going through your head coming into LLT?
I think, like I said before, not cockiness, but confidence. Like, we can do this as we work as a team. I think up to that point, we had lost one game.
Yeah,
in
one finals and one round.
Coming into finals day, I mean.
Coming in the finals day, we lost one game.
At the very end.
Yeah, and so, but it definitely, having played it, it felt like there's a chance we could lose this if we don't work together and give it everything, kind of thing. But that's probably kind of the feelings that I was popping around in my head. But being like, okay, everybody keep your cool, everybody do your job, and we'll win this.
So describe to us how it went for you, the infamous first game against Cali, where we flipped me and Josiah, and you were on the first floor of that first game.
The first game.
We chose green side, they were on red.
Was this the game that we lost?
We lost this one.
We lost this game.
Only other loss, yeah. This was to send them to the losers bracket, yeah. I'm
trying to remember. I didn't watch it as many times as you guys did. You watched it so many times back that I had, I remember the later game. I don't remember as much of the early game. I felt like I was doing well. I felt like I was still trying to put in a lot of meta kits on applesauce. But I think there was some things, and maybe you guys can remind me, was there things going wrong, or was I not very high on lives? I know the Cedar game I was lower on lives, but and that was a little part. I was like beside you, and you're like, Joe, give me lives. You were like, you need to shoot Caleb. And I'm like, no, I need lives.
You were in Baja, and I was in chamber, and so you were yelling for me, and Josiah was like, you got to come over here. And I'm sitting there in chamber just like, I don't know what you want from me. That was what was happening that game.
That game? Oh, yeah.
But,
so I think I did extend myself maybe too long on this game.
No, it was the Cedar game.
Oh, that was the Cedar.
That was the Cedar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
in the Cali game, the first thing you did was rush the ramp. Do you remember? You got a bunch of medics off.
Oh, yes. I do remember
They didn't
that.
go all the way up. They went halfway. And you managed to dink both of them before they turned back on. As they turned back on, actually. So their trails are now gone. So you run up the rampway, hit them both again, and they're already down real bad. And we were just like, oh, okay.
And then literally, I think you were pushing them, or was Josiah heavy?
Yeah, Josiah comes over and flushes them.
So they literally go beside me again.
Yep.
So did I get like 4 to 5 or something? Yeah, or right off the bat. And then it was like, I think I ran down immediately, went probably the long way. So I think they probably went into Red Rock or Red Cave, and I maybe right at the bottom. And either I went to Red Start and came back if they were right underneath, or I went all the way through to Red Base and back through Red Rock and just continued to try to keep them down. At that point, I think Cayman had come down too, and he was protecting them pretty relentlessly.
I think
to where
You're thinking of the second game.
Yeah.
the second game.
The first game, they stopped at the.
No, you're good.
I should have watched it before.
No, it's okay. And that's totally fine. And part of it is I wanted to ask you about a couple of things.
Yeah.
Because, so the play-by-play is, the game is chaotic. They have a giant wall of red as they take us off the 3rd floor. We all run downstairs. Joe gets killed out of the game pretty quickly. He makes it like barely up the ramp for the last little bit, and then he's dead at like 6 minutes into the game. And we are tasked with trying to kill out the enemy team from that point.
Yeah.
So what I observed in that game is that we have a really heavy pushback. We kill out Applesauce, and then we're in this really long, like drawn out stalemate for a while.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, Bromatized, is that while our team mostly has the 3rd floor and their team mostly has the 2nd floor, I noticed that with you having about 15-ish lives, you just kept pushing them, even in the stalemate. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Tell us about what was going through your head at that point.
Well, I guess I was just thinking like, okay, we got to kill them. I bet they're low too. And I felt like I was the only one that had a little bit of stuff. I know both. I was plinking Dylan as much as I could. And I know DK was getting me a lot. He was doing a really good job of keeping really tight jumps, and I think he was kind of at the closet wall, and I was kind of over on Red Ramp / Baja, and I think you were close to there too, or maybe even on Red Ramp.
I was more in chamber.
Fortress. Oh, you were in chamber.
I was more in chamber, but John was by you.
John, okay. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know if it was the best call at the time, but I felt like that we were just so close. Like I just gotta keep going, especially since nobody else was.
In context for you, it makes perfect sense.
To your credit as well, I'm rewatching it back right now. You have the killing blow on Applesauce. So the one that sets it all into the okay, there are no longer medics now is actually you, like you said.
No, and that's a good thing. But go a few more minutes in if you can. If you can find like when there's 3 minutes left in the game or so.
Yeah.
It's almost funny. I watch this and it's like no one's moving, but Bromatized just keeps running. Or you're mostly floating like the red ramp, just trying to find angles on them.
This is where it begins. It's you and Luke are on Red Ramp together.
I thought I was beside you.
Yeah.
Maybe
that was my fortress. Yeah, and Josiah, and eventually Luke goes.
I eventually goes to change. I eventually do. Okay.
Yeah, Yeah, I just kept, because I knew everybody else was low. So you were at 2 lives. I was at 7 lives at this point, and Josiah was at 1, and John was at 5. So I was like, well, I guess I need to do it. But I feel like I thought they were lower on lives than they were.
And you had no way of knowing. It's one thing to look back on the scoreboard.
Yeah, because I could have totally just held ground and we'd have probably been fine, because they were winning this game regardless because of points.
Yeah.
But instead of an elim.
For a little while, we didn't have some bases.
Right. Like John had no idea getting his base would trigger the sound effect and send them on a full attack.
Yeah. That's what starts the killing process, yeah.
So there's no way to know in the game. This isn't like to say, I don't really disagree with your decision, honestly.
I know. It's, especially if you know, like, because at that point you knew you were the healthiest, so you were just trying to be like, I'm just going to try and take what shots I can.
Right.
Which I can't even remember, but I felt like I was beside you and was asking your thoughts. So
I don't remember that.
I don't know. So
I believe
you might have actually been sending me to my death and art. No,
maybe
it's all Bromley's fault. No, but yeah, I do remember that it probably not being my hit diff went probably down pretty far because they were just continuing to get me, and I wasn't really getting them. I did just get.
I think you're the one that put
DK.
Dill to 1, if I recall. But
lo and behold, too, didn't see Fan. He's probably downstairs, and he has 11 lives. DK was at 9.
yeah.
Kodama was at 7. It felt like the way they were playing, it felt like they were at bare bone lives left, and it's like, well, fine, I'll do what I need to, and it just like they didn't die.
Watching the stream at the time, just sitting out there with applesauce, me and her both watching the scoreboard, it felt like you guys had just hidden and they couldn't find you. So going back to rewatch and finding out that it was literally just a stare off made me smile a little bit, because in the back of my head, I'm like, I know what was going on then. And I was sitting there going, we're going to get eliminated.
No, I think
because once I died too, they especially was like, okay, now we can hunt.
Yeah, because John gets both his bases. The sound alert triggers that suddenly our team is in the lead in points, and that's when they come out and they start fighting. So, unfortunate. Again, like Luke said, there's no way to know.
And your attacking may have helped create the impression that we were healthier.
Yeah, who knows, maybe if we were stalemate, they would have decided to push us. I feel like DK played so much more reserved for having like 11 or 12 lives when he was doing that.
Well, and even remember, you've played long enough to know that it's true that a game of Space Marines doesn't feel like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You get to those last few minutes and they drag, and you're like, how long have we been doing this? How long have they actually been without a medic? Are they? And so I agree with Luke. I think that gave off the impression of, I'm healthy enough to keep fighting you guys. And they're like, why is he still healthy enough to keep fighting? Like, this shouldn't be like this. Because especially once they saw that Josiah is just staring them down and not moving, they get the, oh, okay, they're nearly dead. And then you've got Bromley on the other side going, ha ha ha.
They're like, well, he must have a lot. Oh, he's dead? Oh, let's kill him. Yeah. So if I'd have just, I probably should have just, once I got lower than a certain amount, I probably should have stopped. Maybe it felt. I do remember it. It felt like a good play in the moment, and then being like, I was nowhere close to killing them. What were they doing? I was half their lives, and I was being the aggressor.
It really speaks to your play style, man. No better way to go out.
Yep. Go out fighting.
Well, let's get to the finals game. Talk about the finals game.
Against Cedar.
Yeah.
That one, I feel like multiple games, I feel like you had given me orders to just shoot Caleb and not let him do anything. And I know that was a lot earlier in the tournament for sure.
We did put emphasis on Caleb as the main person we need to shut down.
Yeah. Was this the game that it was me and Troy as scouts? Or
No, this was
The grand finals, the very end, yeah.
So I
And
was on second floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, can
So you
I
put me out to high and dry.
in fact, can I start here then?
Yes.
So like, we come into the very final match. We have put you on second floor, and you had not practiced this much at all for the tournament.
Yeah.
Our initial plan was we were going to send both our 3 hits up top. We wanted to slip Joe and John up onto the third floor as well, so anytime you could buy as the only person on second floor would be massive for us.
Yeah.
And like in prep for this interview, I went and I watched the finals game, and I really focused on the story of Bromley. What happened? What did he do? And you were incredible, let me tell you. Because Snuffles doesn't rush the second floor. He stands in the near Joe's cubby, and he tries to ping the 3 hits. So you're able to get a full trail off, and nobody can get into the closet for like the first 30 seconds of the game. And then for the next like minute and a half, it's Bromley surrounded by Snuffles, Thunder, and Metalface on the second floor.
Yeah.
Did you come out with negative 100 points? No, you came out with 800 points. You were actually just getting like 2 hits for every 1 hit you got done to you for that whole minute and a half. Like you were shutting people down. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it bought a ton of time because John and I got to reset Caleb a bunch there. Luke got to then leave to go start helping pressure again from the other side. And then Josiah was able to just work with us to keep Caleb on third floor reset, so.
Yeah. I remember it being brutal, but it was like, okay, let's.
The 60 seconds of misery was what was required for the game win.
Yeah. But I mean, in some regards too, because Snuffles was heavy that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So since he was on second floor, it's not like I'm as the scout bleeding points to the commander versus Caleb. You guys were just being able to completely deal with him, and he's not scoring points. And yeah, so.
And the other nice thing it does is that this happens where, unfortunately, you don't get to have the glory of that part, is because you're keeping Snuffles' attention on you with the others. Metalface and Chaser get shoved downstairs by Luke and Josiah. Meds and Chaser. And Jarrett just starts resetting them.
Yeah.
They don't basically set up, and Snuffles does not leave because you're constantly just coming after him, that he doesn't make the decision to go downstairs and defend the resupplies. He stays up to try and keep help like with the pressure, and so even just that extra person like running into the wall was awesome.
Yeah. I can't remember. How long did it take us to Elam on that game?
Ooh, I think it was about 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay, so it still did take a little while. I couldn't remember, but I knew it was like, was that the game that
Maybe check.
that Jarrett had got like 11 medikits?
That was the 11 medikit game.
Yeah. Still in my medikits.
I know, no, seriously.
No, it was a needed.
How long?
To be fair, we're at the 7-minute 45 marker. To your credit, the scores are Jarrett with 5-9 with his bases, Luke with 5-9 with his bases, you with 4-3 with 1 base. And so it's not like you weren't doing anything. Yeah, it was.
Well, I especially wanted to say those things on the podcast to make sure you got fair credit, because had the role been reversed, had we had a second floor scout, and you on first, you might have had the 11 medikit game.
Yeah.
I know you would have been there to receive meds and reset him and Chaser to death.
But to Jared's
9
credit,
minutes.
9 minutes.
he was better at, I think, hitting meds, and I was better at hitting applesauce.
It's true.
So it did work out. So
And-
yeah, I'm not at all resentful or bitter about that, and it was a necessary choice for the better of the team, like to use that time and to just shut Caleb out.
Yeah.
Be able to not do what he wanted.
Absolutely. I mean, really, you just soaked up a lot of attention from their scouts and their heavy, and you punished them when they ignored you.
Yeah.
There's a time when Snuffles tries to go push the closet and push the top floor, and you're immediately behind him. I can see you on camera. You come and you shoot him. You reset off of an enemy, and then you hit Snuffles again, and then he tries to turn to you, and you run away.
It's like, I'm not getting missile again.
So you have to, if you ignore me, I'm going to hit you in the back. If you look at me, I'm going to make you chase me around and not do other more important things.
Yeah.
Like, that is incredible scout play.
Yeah. It's not my most favorite scout play for sure, but it was effective in that scenario.
Yeah. It showed that you, Bromatized, can play a number of styles of scout. You can do the medic killer, but you can also do the hit diff, you can do the distracting, you can do the soaking up.
Yeah.
Like, you proved that you deserved to be on that team, and you were a massive help to us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliments.
Second game goes a little quicker, I think, or smoother, I'd say.
I think too, they definitely, it felt like they had, I think even from some of them, they were definitely tired after the night, and they maybe had started feeling like, okay, this is going to be a hard win. And so there was probably a little bit of the, what am I trying to say? Fatigue. Yeah, fatigue and frustration and just like exhaustion maybe even, and just like, okay.
Yeah, had to run the gauntlet just.
They only played 7 games in a row.
Yeah, so they were so tired. I remember, I think Metalface saying, he's like, we were so dead that it was less like, yeah, you guys got it.
We talked about it. We gave them like a 10-minute break to try and give them like a bit of time to like get their feet back under them.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even want to beat them in an exhausted state, but we were sitting there basically also not having played that many games, just kind of like getting restless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, it wasn't fair, but that's the Nats format. That's why you try to get the first seed. Otherwise, I would lose games on purpose.
It's okay. It's not fair, and I've been in the opposite
And
end
we've
of
been in the opposite end.
so many times.
Yeah,
You want to end in the top 3 because then you don't have to run the gauntlet so far.
Right. Exactly. So cool. Do you remember winning, like when the game was over in those fight, like when we actually did it and we won?
Yeah, it was a very overwhelming feeling. I know we were just also happy and even breaking down into tears, like just that we had fought for this for so long, and getting it was so, yeah. I remember us hugging each other and being a really great moment for sure.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing to share it with you.
Yeah. Yeah, after so many years of playing multiple tournaments together. I think one of the only ones we really didn't play together was my first one, which was in 2018. But we played the Syracuse. We've been on multiple teams in seasons. We'd been with... we were even together in the random draw after Syracuse, like at the Syracuse tournament after the regular one, East Coast 2021, and then we were in the West Coast 2022.
Yeah, 22, and then Duo's 23.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
yep, we've been through a lot together, and it was really, and with a lot of players, Josiah, John Calkins, Joe on some. He hadn't been to all the tournaments that I'd been to, like the Syracuse primarily. He couldn't make it to that one, but yeah, to fight through it with friends and then to finally get to it was a great experience for sure.
So, what's next for Bromatized?
Bromatized is retired now. I don't know if having actually getting married this year in August. I don't know if I'm going to be doing tons of like away tournaments. It's not like I've totally written it off, but it definitely was like getting that first place trophy was definitely in my bucket list, as it were. But it's not like I'm going to stop playing laser tag, and I definitely would play in tournaments and seasons and stuff at Loveland. But yeah, I don't want to completely write it off that I'm not going to away tournaments, but married life might make that more difficult to be able to do.
We'll follow you into coming to Syracuse.
I completely relate to everything. I'm also getting married this year. How about that? 5. Look it up.
Man, this is like the first I'm hearing about it.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Well, where's that first place trophy right now?
On the top of my shelf of games and books. Yes, I keep it on my paper towels like Joe.
Like Sergeant Tucker.
I'm in the corner until I can go.
But yes, I keep it on the top, right in front with a bunch of other trophies and from seasons, and I think a picture you had done of my little like animated version of me that I can see Joe's pinned on the wall.
It was the first thing that got pinned in my apartment.
Man, I have to make another one of those. Everyone really liked those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep.
Well, awesome, man. It was a huge honor playing with you. It helps me get to know you a lot better, too, and just have more appreciation for you, who you are, what you're good at, and how willing you are to be what the team needs you to be. So thank you for your services.
Yeah. Thank you.
Glad we helped get you that trophy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? If there's anything you'd want the listener to take away from this episode, what would it be?
Shoot, don't get shot. No. All that to say, laser tag is just a really fun hobby for me. I've met some really good friends over the years through it that I really appreciate, and even meeting people from other states and countries that I enjoy playing with. It definitely was an amazing experience that for most people that I tell, I play competitive laser tag, and I'm a world champion laser tag player, and they're like, "What? That's a thing? Like, that's so cool!" And it's super fun and cool to be able to share with people, and then to maybe go to the YouTube channel and pull up, here's a video of me, and they're like, "You're a celebrity," and I'm like, "No," but yeah, it's a fun outlet to play with friends, and I would have never thought I wouldn't have imagined myself 8 years ago, 9 years ago, however long it's been, of playing tag and thinking that this is where I'd be. playing competitive laser tag, but yet it's such a cool, fun thing. And so, yeah. It's been a real blessing and a fun outlet to be able to feel like have strategy and actually get physical exercise while doing it. Because I sure, going to the gym, am not about to get on a treadmill, but I can run so much at laser tag, and it's far more of a workout than me ever playing volleyball or other different sports, just little bits here and there. Like, I'm so much more like physically drained after playing tag.
It's funny how when you're having fun, workouts don't feel like
Yeah, it's funny how it works that way.
you wake up the next day just like, my legs.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have any other thoughts?
I have one last thing to do with you. So we've talked a lot about other arenas, right? What arena do you think you would enjoy the most? And then for me and you, what arena do we think you'd do best in?
Ooh. Any role?
Any role. Yeah.
I guess I just don't know tons of the arenas. I think there's been talk that it actually is Australia very much like ours in some regards. Brisbane.
From what Josiah has described it as, it's a combination of ours and a couple of others.
It's huge.
Yeah, it was one of the first sites.
So basically, it's kind of like Detroit. I haven't been to Detroit, but it's like Detroit's and ours.
Yeah, that's similar. Kind of how Josiah's like. It's a combination of multiple arenas altogether.
Okay. The St. George Arena has sounded like it is a lot, just because you can get shot through the walls and stuff.
We've shown you a couple videos, right?
But
that one? Yeah.
I don't know. Is that one that you feel like in your head, or is that
I think
something
you'd love
else?
Commander in St. George.
Yeah.
I think it would be so much fun for you because it is that style of you just don't stop running your head into the wall. And the arena is so small and like fist fighty that you're gonna be like, ha ha ha. There is no getting away from me.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about it in the commander role and stuff. So yeah, that might be actually a really cool thing to be able to try out. I know going to actually another place that I went with you, we went to it wasn't really an official tournament, but went to the Lost Worlds in California. And that was definitely an interesting experience for sure too. You just definitely didn't want to be on blue side, right?
No, blue side didn't win that night.
No, at all. And it was like, Luke, can you please put me on red one game? It was so bad because it was like since it was Gen 7 still, the packs didn't do good underneath on the blue side, and but every time that you tried to like swap or flop sides or like push them over there, that wasn't about to work, and you just were like land blasted. But yeah, so it felt like, I guess, aspects of that one, I felt like maybe I thought it would be similar to the St. George, to where probably I was like, oh, I don't know if it's too small, like I'm just going to get hit from every direction. But I think that might be worth trying out at some point.
I also think you'd be a very vicious scout in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Putting Bromley in back corner and just being like, go have fun, buddy.
I would agree with St. George. I think it would be like if we played SM5 in Loveland with only the first floor. Mm. It's just even more elimination focused than ours.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere within just a few seconds.
And if your team spreads out properly, there's nowhere to run safely. Like if you get flushed once, it can be basically game over.
It can be, yeah.
Wow.
So I think you'd like it. I think your killer instinct would thrive there.
Yeah. And I feel like that's not, St. George isn't nearly as far away and stuff. So I feel like a little bit more feasible and doable than, New Zealand or
Yes.
Australia or part of why I want to do a road trip.
I've had the same thought. It's a like hour and a half flight to get there.
Yeah.
St. George and maybe Cedar City coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything more than that, but
We can fly to Vegas, and then it's an hour from Vegas to St. George. So cheap flights to Vegas.
So cheap,
Really
too.
cheap. Really cheap rides too.
yeah, they're set up. I asked you if you have any takeaways, and one takeaway I would just say from your story, Bromley, is I'd encourage people to play to their strengths. I think everybody has a brilliant laser tag player inside of them, but we're not all going to be the same type. Not everyone's going to be the 13K commander. Not everyone's going to be the highly intellectual mastermind medic leading from the rear. Not everyone's going to be the responsible heavy. Like, play to your strengths. You can find out what you're good at and build on that rather than trying to be someone that you're not.
Yeah, I can agree to that for sure.
Cool. Well, say goodbye to the people, guys. Let's wrap this thing up.
Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.